Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum once again. The final part of the series of video related to debriefing of March 23 mock exam published by ACCA, and this part of the video having agenda briefing about theoretical aspect, and the theoretical aspects include the marks of technical as well as professional marks. So we will consider both the things, how to cover or how to handle the technical and the professional skill marks. So now the very important thing here the report writing, the allocated marks are 20 marks. That's technical marks 15 and the professional marks 5. So you are entering to attempt the 20 marks questions, and you people know very well that if we work out with the technical marks, so simultaneously the student will be able to get the professional marks if he or she obey the guidance mentioned by the tutors or with this particular video. So first of all, if I ask you people that have you done the report writing before watching the video? If the answer is no, I strongly suggest first of all you have to self-attempt this question, complete with the report writing, and then continue to watch the video. That's very much important, because this video is actually about to identify the gap, what you have done and what should be, and identify the gap and make more practice to cover that particular gray areas or the mistakes that you have done. Okay, so whenever you are entering with the report writing, I must say that at examination hall, you must ask yourself that the student have clearly understand the requirement, what should be the part of the report writing. That means what the actual expectation of the examiner. If your inner says yes, I have understand that what should be the ingredients or what should be the content of the report writing, then you move towards the writing of the report. So first, clearly understand what the actual requirement or what should be inside the report, the main content. Here, the examiner expect in the report writing, number one, the explanation of the cost of capital that we have calculated. Here mentioned the suggested by the directors of Ilma company. That's KE, UNGED, all these things. The explanation required. Out of the 6 marks, 3 marks related to explanation. So report writing, the main content includes the discussion related to cost of capital. In fact, this is about the justification, what the justification that we have used the KE UNGED here. Number 2, advise the board of directors with respect to the swapping of the debts to equity of the unsecured bonds. Here we need to cover that point. Number 3, advise the boards on the listing on the possible range of 100 million share in issue. That 4th part is actually connect with the second part. With the second part, we have calculated the value of the Milma without Bahari project and with Bahari project. So based on that, we have to examiner expecting to make comments related to the value per share with Bahari project, without Bahari project, including some content of the question that, for example, question mentioned that the investor, you publish the strategy, you publish the intention about issuing of shares, where some response from the investor that only 20% you are issuing to the public, so you have to offer with a 20% discount. So we need to comment on that point as well. So Make it clear you have identified all the areas that you need to attack, that you need to attempt. So first of all, having a good plan. So two things. Number one, clearly identify what the technical marks or the main, which means the main content of the report that you will write with the exam, with the report writing. Number two, with this report writing, the professional skill marks, it's not very much challenging. It's easy. Believe me, professional skill marks for 50 marks questions are easy. Some of the professional marks you have already covered with the calculation aspect. Okay, at least 3 to 4 marks. Now that was too easy that we covered with the previous videos. And now here with the report writing, further free or easy marks. That's called the format and structure. So first of all, the report format and structure. Report, number one, you have to mention to the board of director of Milma company. Then make an introduction paragraph. The introduction paragraph here, a very brief introduction. And always make introduction paragraph based on the requirement, or I can say that just rearrange the wordings of the requirement. What does that mean? With the requirement, the report includes these things, not the yellow highlighted. You just rearrange the wordings of these requirements like this. Introduction paragraph, read it. This paragraph that's written here, it's only the rearrangement of the requirements. Read it. The report consider or includes range of values of the Milma company, possible share price based on 100 million issue shares in preparation of IPO, assumptions made in determining the value range, and the justification about director opinion. The cost of capital should be based on ungeared cost of equity, and the likelihood of the unsecured bondholders accepting 10% equity for debt swap offer. 4 components. Range of values, that's requirement 4. Number 2, assumptions. Here examiner particular highlight that the advice should also include the assumption made. So assumption made. Number 2. Then justification about the director opinion, why use the cost of equity A1, and likelihood about the acceptance of the unsecured bonds swapping equity for debts, the third one. So number 1, clearly understand the requirement and then rearrange the words or sequence the words of requirement that should be the part of the reports. So these are the free marks. I must say free marks. What are these? Number 1, you have to mention the structure 2, the introduction paragraph, and then after conclusion you have to mention report compiled by or date. Don't mention the date, don't mention the name, the report compiled by. So yes, you have to mention to the board of directors of Milma company, then make introduction paragraph, then mention report compiled by, then mention date. If you perform these 4 things, you will easily be get 2 professional skill marks. It's a conservative. I'm conservative with this. Examiner can give you 3 marks as well, but conservative side 2 marks. So 2 free marks here and 2 to 3 marks of the calculation aspects of the professional skill marks. Labeling, appendixes labeling, structure of the calculation, using the spreadsheet functions. So 2 to 3 marks from that part of the calculation specs, 2 to 3 marks with the report structure. Means easy 4 to 5 marks, easy marks, or I must say free marks. Now, furthermore, whenever you are entering with the main content of the report, now you will enter with the main content. Don't make the heading of main content. I strongly suggest after introduction paragraph, you have to write the report by making headings. Making headings with a heading means you are good presentable. Heading means your approach is right according to the examiner expectation. And you will actually provide easiness to the marker to provide the marks. Number one, what the first heading you will make? Milma company's cost of capital explanation. Milma company cost of capital explanations. Milma company estimate values, total values, and per 100 million shares, a range of values. Unsecured bondholders, that's issue, and the assumptions points. These are the main contents. But do remember, whenever you are attempting any theoretical area of the question, do remember that the content of the question is very important. An examiner expecting that you have to use the content of the question. For example, company are proceeding towards the IPO. Reference of the investor expecting 20% discount. These are the reference of the questions. So, reference of the question, that's very much important. So, if you incorporate the content of the question, that's called reference of the question. Number one, technically you will be able to answer the question with respect to relevance and completeness. Relevance and completeness. Number one, that is the technical aspects. Number two, if you enter the things, if you make a reference of the question matters, incorporating with the report writing with theory, that also adding the marks for professional skill marks, that is commercial acumen, that's connect with the case, and sometimes the skepticism as well. If you challenge some information, that's skepticism. And very important, time management is the key factor. If you are attempting the question for 20 marks, overall, the 50 marks question, you have 1 hour, 30 minutes or 35 minutes maximum, not more than that. That means 90 minutes. And you are attempting the report writing for 20 marks, that means 20 marks multiplied by 1.8, that is 36 minutes or the 36 or 40 minutes you have. So you have to be committed to attempt the question within the time scale. Time management is very key. Rest of the days you have to practice with the exam conditions and the time management and applying all these things. Okay, anyways, so these are the headings. For example, with respect to the debriefing, what you will write, the cost of capital explanation. So here, always start the point with a very simple way. Here you use the cost of capital of Ziva, the proxy. So first, just make an explanation. What you have done means what the calculation you have done. First, start with whatever the calculation you need to interpret. You use Ziva company ungeared cost of equity, where you assume 100% equity finance, the first statement, which reflect the business risk only. So whatever, always start the first statement is about whatever you have done with the calculation. Then incorporating more points. Why Milma use this? You are here to justify your answer. Because of the same industry as same business risk. And Milma has no plan to issue new debts. So that means that right now Milma is 100% equity finance and they don't have any future plans. So here, based on this, you will be able to get 3 marks. 3 marks. So for 3 marks, 2 statements are good enough. Sir, we can make some skepticism point here. Yes, you can put skepticism point here, or you can incorporate a skepticism point of this cost of capital matter with the assumption point. It's your choice. Okay, so here we have incorporated the technical marks. Yes, also you have incorporated the data of the question. That same business risk, Milma, no issuance of new debts. So that means you incorporated some analysis point, incorporating the facts of the question, incorporating the facts of the question in theory as well, the analysis, and it's also part of the commercial acumen. That's reality of the business. Now, second heading, Milma's company estimated value. Estimated value. That's you have calculated the value. Number one, simple start with explanations. The numbers game. Simple. The numbers. Without Bahari project, with Bahari project. And make a proper reference of appendix. Always. Not with this part, with the previous part as well. Make a reference of appendix. And here you need to work out per share price based on 100 million shares. Like this. Milma company estimated value. For example, based on cost of capital appendix 1, value is 56.43. Appendix 2. Prior to consider Bahari project, always start simple explanation. The interpretation, the facts of interpretation. The value of Bahari project without undertaking the benefit of tax shield and the subsidized loan do not exceed the initial investment. And with benefit of the financing side effects, estimated project will generate positive base case NPV or the NPV 21.5. And overall, taking Bahari project into account gives value of Milma 586. That's 564 plus 21. 564 means without Bahari project. With Bahari project, 586. And then I have made a table here. Sir, can we make a table or highlight the point like this? Possible share price 100 million, add full, add 20% discount. Without Bahari project, add full 5.64, with 20% discount 4.5. Sir, this is normally student miss that 20% discount, but I must say reference of the question is very important. 5.86, 4.969. That's very simple. Moreover, this is what about the estimated value. About the estimated value, you will be able to get 3 marks, including technical and professional skills. Now, very important, assumption, unsecured bondholders, equity for debt swap. Start with explanation of the number games. That's whatever you have done with the explanation, the value of the bonds. Value of the unsecured bond that's going to swap with the equity. Make a reference of the appendix always. Don't ignore the reference of the question. That's here we are swapping 10% equity. That means we are offering out of 100 million shares, 10% we will provide 10% equity. That's 10 million shares. So what will be the per share value? Reference point. And then analyze with different share price. If the share price with 100% potential, not 20% discount, what will be the spec? If offer with a 20% discount, what will be the spec? What will be the spec? So one option of critic as well, that's skepticism. You can critic as well the methodology uh, of the valuation of debts, the methodology about the valuation of debts. Okay, like this, you can read it. For example, says the current value, simple explanation, current value of unsecured bond 56.8 appendix 4. If the unsecured bondholders are offered 10% equity, 10 million shares, the share price 5.86 would be acceptable to them. But if listing made at lower, then we have to make more shares, because if the discounted price 4.151, so for this 58.61 we need to uh, provide more number of shares. That's 56.8 the value of bonds divided by 4.51 per share. So they will need to expect 12.9459 shares. That is not 10%. That's more than 10%. That's 12.6%. So this point is missing in our answer. That's the analysis skills you have to make there. Furthermore, you have to incorporate some skepticism. Here we have used the value of the bonds with the one flat cost of debts, that called flat yield curve. Maybe the complex issues about the government yield, where this is not flat because yield curve is increasing trend. So then we will use the concept of the bond valuation with advanced yield curve, or the upper yield curve with government yield plus the spread of the company. So here you are criticizing which is at the rate at which Milma can borrow fund, and therefore its current yield. More accurate method would be assess yield curve based on future risk-free rate and the credit spread of the company. So here you have added a point, something challenge the information. But do remember, whenever you are challenging, you have to complete the thing accordingly. You challenge that more accurate. This is not much accurate. So what should be the accuracy? So accuracy is that you have to use the future, risk-free rate plus the credit spread of the company. Or you can mention the government yield rates plus the credit spread of the company. So always whenever you are challenge the information. You have to complete your counter. If this is something critic, so you have to cover the point with this manner. Okay, so this is what about the unsecured bonds, and the marks are about 5 marks. You will be able to get 5 marks. It's mentioned here, the 5 marks. Also, it's some of the bars related to the calculation aspects. So if I say that 2 marks calculation, at least 3 marks for the theory aspects. Last point is the assumption. It's very common for your studies. Assumptions. Some assumptions are very straightforward. Very straightforward. For example, if you're working with the free cash flows, so you can challenge the information about the accuracy of the information about the growth rates, further the sales growth rates of the free cash flow, growth rates of the sales revenue, operating profit margins. These are the informations that you can challenge. Skepticism belongs to 2 things: challenge the information within the question or challenge the methodology. So challenge the information here, the mentioned in the question. The first thing is that whatever we have calculated the growth rates of the sales or the future cash free cash flow, that is based on past, that might not be appropriate for the future. The tax rate, that might not be appropriate for the future. So these are the simple points, very basic and quick marks. Accuracy of the information, the first thing. Number 2, Assumptions about the cost of capital, KE ungeared. Maybe after Milma, we have used the Ziva, KE ungeared. Maybe the business risk after the Bahari project become change and it's of the Milma company, it's not equal to Ziva. So you can critique that point. So you mentioned that you need to reconsider that point. Then subsidized loan. The project of Bahari is 15 years. This government is offering you the subsidized loan. So you need to assess the political stability of the government. If the government become changed, maybe in future the subsidized loan will uh, not to continue after the change of the political government. So these points are for subsidized loan. This is the point of skepticism, but also incorporating other information. That's political risk. Although it's not the part of the question, but relevant to the question. So adding more information to complete your point. Cost of, you ignore here the stock market listing cost. So so you need to consider that point. So these are the assumption points. You need to cover that point. You can coordinate me to get the complete document of the solution. So this is what about the assumption points. The very basic, first start with the accuracy of information. But do remember, you can learn, or even you practice a lot with the past paper. That's already memorized in your mind. But whenever you are mentioning these assumptions, this assumption about the accuracy of information, that's very standard. Don't ignore to making a reference of the question. You have to mention the name of the questionnaire, Milmas, Bahari. Use the company name. So it makes the impression that you are connecting with the case. You are applying the knowledge. Okay. So in AFM, it's not only about just throw the knowledge. Make a sentence in a manner that make an impression that something applying the knowledge. Here the cost of capital point. The cost of capital. First you mentioned that is estimated based on competitor ungeared cost of equity Ziva, on the basis that Milma is in similar line of business and face similar businesses. And the financial risk has been removed. It's not looking for extra debts. Okay. But this, however, you are challenging. It is possible business risk faced by Milma and faced by Ziva, the competitor, not the same. Especially accepting Bahari change the risk businesses profile of the Milma and therefore effect on discount rates. This is the point of skepticism. So once again, value are based on the Bahari government fulfilling subsidized loan. But Milma need to consider the likelihood whether a change of government if the government becomes changed may jeopardize the agreement. The political and the risk need to be considered and their impacts. So you challenge that information. Once again, this is the point of the skepticism. Same case for the skepticism. Then the underwriting cost you can work out accordingly. Now the final point. Is about the conclusion. For the conclusion, I always advise to my student that always start with the sharp sentence. Always start with the sharp sentence. Sharp sentence means the blunt statement. For example, if something about the NPV, you have to work out either accept the project or reject the project. Very clear statement. Number one, the statement must be very clear and very sharp based on the report writing you are mentioning here. For example, in this scenario, what are the sharp statements? Very specific, bold statement. The report and calculation in the appendix suggests price of the listing between 4.5 5.6. The prices depending on whether or not Bahari is undertaken and the discount at the shares are issued and the assumption made. Very blunt. The report and calculation suggest the price, and these are the price, and these prices based on the Bahari project and the cost of capital we have used. Here I've mentioned the statement is very clear, very bold. First 2 or 3 lines very bold. In this case, we have identified this based on this. But the another point, the second part of the conclusion is that use the diplomacy. Use the diplomacy. For example, what diplomacy? Your statement must be blunt, but you have to cover the whoever make the report writing must have to cover that these reports are based on some assumptions. So if these assumptions are changed, the analysis and the evaluation or the decision may change. So the point is that these points reflect something about the commercial acumen as well, business realities. How? Like this. Last statement. First, the blunt statement, then it is recommended that Milma should consult underwriters and potential investors about the possible share price they would be willing to pay before making final decision. Known as book building. Means if the company going to announce the listing and some of the investors are concerned about the pricing that only 20% offer to the public, and you have taken up multiple assumptions, Bahari project, the discount rate, all these things. So first, it's recommended that you have to coordinate with the potential investor, make an informal meetings or consult with the underwriters, the brokers. That's is this share price we have calculated realistic or not? So this is what about some diplomacy. If the share 20 million shares offered 4.51, listen carefully. These will result total fundraise of just 90 million. Now, this is what you are incorporating. I must say something commercial acumen. So what does that mean? That means be practical. Be practical. That if here we offer 20 million shares to the public with the 4.151 price, that discounted price. So the total fund we will be able 20 million out of 100 million into 20%, 20 million shares into 4.51, we will be able to get 90 million dollars. After that, 80 millions are spent in paying the secure bonds. Yes. And 10 millions liquid funds remain. Therefore, Milman need to consider whether issuing the shares at a discount will ensure sufficient liquid funds available to continue the business activities. I must say these statements are commercial realities. Commercial acumen means whatever you are writing, whatever you are reporting, or whatever the strategy making by the company, is this practical? Be practical. In addition to this, Bahari investment may result change in the capital structure of the company. We need to consider that here the Bahari project, if we are engaged with a Bahari project, we are entering with a subsidized loan. So which means the company not become 100% equity finance. The company having some debts. So if company enters some debts, That is the cheaper source of finance. That's impact on the cost of capital. If impact on the cost of capital, that will affect to the value of the company as well. So this is the point. And finally, being listed will result any listing cost and annual cost relating to additional reporting requirement. So overall, with this conclusion, first make a blunt statement, then make diplomacy and incorporating some facts. Whatever we are concluding, is this realistic or not? So these factors should be balanced against the benefits undertaking new listing before final decision is made. And this is what about the conclusion. Candidates and then report compiled by the date. Candidates, this is all about the major part of this question. If we wanted to know what about the part B, the ethical issue, you can read the things accordingly and check your answer accordingly. I've done with this session. You can work out the ethical part by your own. At final, students, this is what about the debriefing, and you can check your answer, compare your answer with this document or with this debriefing session, and identify the gap. Do remember that the important point is that at that particular time you need to keep moving, keep practicing, not thinking that your question are not matching with your model answer. Rather than keep experiencing, keep practicing as much as possible, and move towards the success of the exam. The important point is that do remember the success graph is like that. Somewhere up, then down, then up, then down, then up, then down, then up, then down. Overall, the position is increasing. At one moment, your position is this, but second part, the position may be this at the lower side. No worries. The important is that you have to, once your position is down, the important point is wake up, start again, and move towards an improvement position. Then down, then improve. Overall, the graph should be increased. So keep moving, keep putting your efforts till that time of the examination. So this is what about from my side. Thank you very much from all of you. If you wanted to get the document, you can contact me through the WhatsApp number +923218271784. You can contact me on the WhatsApp, then I will provide you the document. Otherwise, you can easily identify all the things from this video. Thank you very much. Take care a lot. Assalamu alaikum.